Hi everyone, and welcome to our channel. In this episode, I'd like to show you an alternative way to do 3D modeling. As we know, there are many other types of software out there that can create 3D models. In fact, there's well over 100 different varieties. This is just a quick look at some of the more popular ones. I can't speak for their quality because I don't use them all, but there are a couple within this list that I do use. One of my favorite ones to use is a product called DAZ. If you're unfamiliar with it, I think you'll be quite surprised. The software DAZ was designed to create animated 3D figures and scenes for the gaming world. Now, I didn't invent this, but I did find a way to be able to utilize the powerful tools within DAZ and import that 3D model into our Aspire or Vcarve software. The DAZ software is free, and it comes with several preloaded models that you can manipulate. There's also an extensive training lessons and forum that become very useful. This is what the software looks like. Again, this is a free software with some 3D models already built in. The idea behind the company is that you purchase other models and clothing, especially for figures, that you then can manipulate. On the left-hand side, it shows you where the components or the assets are. The right-hand side of the screen is where you use the tools to manipulate them. I'm going to walk through some of the examples of how you can take the products from DAZ and utilize within your Vectric software. As I said, the software was designed for the gaming world, and the assets or 3D components are mostly figures and products that you would add to scenes. There are animals, inanimate objects, as well as people. Of course, like any other topic, the main site of DAZ is where you would purchase your additional products. But there are also other third-party companies that create product for the DAZ software that you can also utilize. Renderosity is a place I go to frequently. So let's just take a look. Here's a chest of gold from the Pirate series that they have. And you simply click on it and it becomes visible within its viewer screen. And you can see it's a true 3D model. Rotate it around, adjust it as need be. The nice thing about it also is that each piece is separate in most cases. So you're able to delete each piece. If I didn't want the flag, for example, I can simply delete it. If I like what I have, I simply export it as an OBJ. But there's several different types of OBJ attributes. But for our case, it really doesn't matter because we're bringing it into a Vectric software, not another 3D animation type software. We open up a Vcarve, as normally we would do. And simply import the OBJ that we've created within DAZ. The process would be as if you found something in the 3D world from the internet. Simply import it, adjust it as need be, rotate it, change the size, center it within the material, or make the entire model visible. One of the tricks here is, depending upon the export attributes that you give it, it may come in as a mirrored piece. If you remember, the flag was on the right-hand side of the chest. Now it's on the left. That's simply the result of my choice of export function. But for this demonstration, I'm okay with it. I adjust the Z height, leaving the X and the Y where they were. And I hit OK. And here's the end result. Personally, I think it turned out rather well. I know it would be rather time-consuming to create this from scratch within Aspire. Certainly you could not do this from Vcarve. Now you have the ability to create your own. Anytime you hover your cursor over an object and it turns that yellow, that orange, you're able to delete the sections or manipulate them. And by the term manipulate, it means you can move them and change them. Let me show you another one. We're going to take an animal, the eagle. Obviously, it's a popular item within our symbolisms. So we double click on the asset or the component and import it into our viewer screen. Now certainly this is not the eagle that I'm looking for, or the pose that I would like the eagle to have. But within DAZ, there is a section of pre-designed poses within the software. Here you could see that yellow or that orange section. That means that each of those items are separate, much like your wrist or finger joints or neck joints, and they could all be manipulated. The term they use is rigged. That means you can adjust them as need be. And if you certainly can't see it, you can add what I call the skin, the actual colors. So with the eagle, for example, we're going to just take it as it is and export it. Again, the export options really don't come into play. Back to a new session of Vcarve. Import the model. Adjust its position. So let's just stop here for a minute, and I have a bit of explaining to do. Many times when you bring in a 3D model, you may see that some of it is in that teal blue color, while other parts of it are orange. The reason that is because the model is made up of polygons, facets. They're thin, they're very thin, just like this sphere. You can see the facets or the polygons. There is a positive side and a negative side, or there is an inside and an outside. In this sphere, I've deleted several of them. And if we export this and import it into a session of Aspire or Vcarve, you'll see the area where I deleted the polygons around from the skin. And you're able to look inside the sphere. If you look closely, you can actually see the other side of the sphere. You can actually see the polygons. The blue is the positive, the orange is the negative. It has nothing to do with electrical charge or anything of that nature. Because certainly the blue would be the inside and the orange would be the outside, but that's a good way to think of it, either the inside or outside or the positive or negative side. For our situation, it really doesn't make a difference. But if we accept this, say yes, we'd like to see the 3D model, you can see where the hole is in the sphere, and you can actually see the inside of the sphere, the opposite side. So don't worry if you see orange and blue or all orange. It really doesn't affect us. So I accept the eagle as it was and bring it into the session of our software. And there we are. It's pretty quick and easy, believe it or not, and you can generate some very, very nice detailed 3D models. But let's say you want to manipulate them. I've mentioned before, if you hover over an area with your cursor and it turns orange, that's a place that could be adjusted. You go to the right-hand panel side, and this is where you have your tools to use to create different effects, to move things around. I can click on the joint of the neck and simply adjust it up or down. So anywhere you would have a joint in a body, typically there's going to be the ability to move it around. Not in all cases. The better the model is, the more joints you're going to have, the more manipulation you can do. Some of the less expensive or lower quality ones will have less joints. The models are not very expensive, not unlike you would find from other places where you would purchase a model. If you are thinking of doing something like this, look for ones that are called rigged, or referred to as rigged. It simply means that there are joints that you can manipulate. You can change the wings and the feathers individually or as a group. It takes a little practice, but all things considered, it's not that very difficult. The fact that it's a true 3D model allows you to be very creative. And it would take an incredible amount of time to generate this from scratch within the Aspire software. I am by no means an expert with this software. I barely can get it to do some of the things I want it to do. But again, this was designed for the gaming world, to be able to animate the figures. I just figured out a way to utilize it and export it as an OBJ and import it into my Aspire software. So as you can see, on our left-hand side of our assets, there are lots of different types, including people. So let's take a look at a figure, which is sometimes the hardest to do within the Vectric software. There are different versions of the figure, new updated versions. And again, there are pre-designed and preset poses that you can use. It makes for very quick work, again, if you're doing animation. Just as before, if I'm happy with what I've created, I simply export it as an OBJ. Now the difference between the OBJ and the STL is simply that the OBJ has a material surface on it. The Vectric software doesn't use that, so it's really not important. So for our situations, the OBJ and the STL are the same. And just like before, upon importing it, we adjust the size or the thickness or the position and where it sits within our material. And hit OK. Now I know that we're all not going to be wanting to have half-naked people in our 3D model designs. So, within DAZ, you can actually purchase or find clothing and accessories. And this is where it becomes valuable, especially if you're doing things as I've done. Another folder has our third-party components. These are DAZ related, though they're not supplied by DAZ or sold by DAZ. Third party, some are good quality, some are not so good. So here's the set of accessories for the fireman. And all you simply would do is click on the item you'd like to apply to your model. Now, of course, I'm simplifying this a little bit, but it's not as complicated as you may think. So we choose a jacket. Of course, we'll put some pants on them. And I guess we should add some shoes. And gloves. Oxygen tank and mask. Just a couple clicks and your 3D model becomes complete. You can go back and change the pose if you'd like, or change it independently. This is the preset pose, but I can click on his arm, add a joint area, whether it's the wrist or the elbow or the shoulder, and simply adjust it. Up or down, in or out, or side to side. And again, once you're happy with what you have in your 3D viewer, simply export it and import it into your Vectric software. Even though I use several other 3D modeling softwares, my Vectric software is always the last one I use, simply because I like the toolpathing options within it. Not all 3D software can create the G-code, and that's the difference between a CAD program and a CAM program. These are more design, the CAD programs. And since I'm so used to the Vectric software, it just made perfect sense. Use DAZ for designing of my figures, import them in, generate the toolpathing, and off we go to the machine. So, there's our model. Rather quick, rather easy. If you're wondering if you could use more than one OBJ file within Vcarve, the answer is technically no. But you may want to look at some of my earlier videos, as I do explain a process where you can incorporate more than one. It's a little trick I learned a long time ago. I created one some time ago of a fireman, and a badge. And it was the same process. I added an axe, and I had him sort of kneeling down, a little tired looking. Again, you can adjust any of the joints of a body. And since this is a true 3D model, you can rotate it to whatever view you'd like. Here's a new session of Vcarve. Go through the import process. Adjust the height and dimensions and position. And here's the end result. Pretty easy work, I would think. Of course, if it's going to be very thick in the Z, you may adjust the base height a little bit and the shape height. My recommendation is change the base height first. I would try to keep all of the details as I can. The shape height sort of squishes it down and flattens it out. So I try to adjust the base height first. Here's the end model that I made. Of course, I made this in Aspire because I also brought in the fire hydrant and the ladder. The words are easily done in Vcarve. So, if you're really thinking about getting into 3D modeling, you may want to take a look at DAZ. They're not sponsoring this. This is just a free bit of advertisement for them. I just happen to like the software. Lots of figures, lots of assets, lots of clothes. The animals are nice. Sometimes they're slightly difficult to work with, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to create some incredible designs. To be honest, I don't know how accurate some of these models are. The weaponry, for example. I'm not a person that would know if that's a correct rifle or pistol. Somebody who with more experience would definitely know. This is just an introduction to another software that's free that you can add to your bag of tricks. So far, what you've seen is just one single model within the DAZ software. Here's an example of a few. I took the chest of gold that I started with, and I added a figure, a pirate, with a sword. And you can see the pirate's pretty well decked out with his hat and his jacket, boots and everything. And you can position them as need be. So you take several, and there's unlimited numbers that you can bring in, and adjust them, position them as need be. Caution though, think about the Z height of all of this. You may have too much space between the pirate and the chest of gold. You have to back it up so that you eliminate any excess Z height. And just like before, we export it and import it into our Vectric software. And there we are. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find it useful. I hope you take the chance to start exploring around and looking at other software that you can use in concert with the Vectric software. My Aspire is my last go-to software that I use. I do create most things within Aspire, but ever so often there are other options to make life just that little bit easier. I have purposely tried to make my videos short, under 20 minutes, simply because I think our attention span starts to wane after that, and it gets tiring. I certainly can go on for hours and hours explaining the possibilities, problems, the good and the bad of a product like DAZ. as well as the Aspire or Vcarve. But I'll leave that to you to explore and learn new things. If you'd like to learn more about the software, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click on the bell to be reminded of our new videos. And of course, as always, if you need help, send me an email, mm@mezalick.com. I'll be glad to help. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Enjoy.